up talking about a wig grip? Sure hope so.
Hi friends, I'm YuziPop. I'm a cosplayer, an artist, and a creator. I'm going to be trying to do this video sort of as fast as I can because my camera is about to die. Today I will be talking about cosplay tips that I wish I knew when I first started. I think I've been cosplaying since 2021. It's like a kind of a long time. I keep saying 3 years for some reason, but that's definitely been more than 3 years. Anyways, I am not a professional cosplayer whatsoever, but I definitely have learned a thing or two from my experience. So hopefully this can be helpful to someone who might just be starting out, or just someone, please. I hope this helps. I will be splitting up these topics into separate groups based off of cosplay subsections. So let's get started. Starting off, we have makeup tips. There are so many things that I wish I could tell my past self not to do, or things that I definitely needed to do. My first tip is about lashes. Picking different shapes and lengths of lashes can really elevate your overall look, as well as distinguish different looks for different characters that you cosplay. For example, whenever I cosplay characters with really light, natural makeup, I usually go for a manhwa lash, or manga lash as some people like to call it. And then whenever I cosplay comic book characters, I usually go for a thicker lash to really achieve that comic book character art style. And while I have yet to do this personally, I know a lot of people do false lashes on their bottom lashes. Some people draw them on. I think I've actually seen that there's a stamp that you can just stamp lower lash drawings on too, which is pretty cool, and I would like to invest in that hopefully soon. Overall, picking different lashes can really pull together your whole look. Picking different styles of lashes for different characters can really distinguish your different look and make you more of a chameleon in cosplay. Which leads me to my next tip, eyeliner. Pretty much the same concept as lashes, just distinguishing the different way you draw it. For example, for Silk, who I like to have a more sort of natural-ish look with, I do a more thin, cutesy cat eyeliner wing. Yeah, and then for Starfire, I do more of a bold, thicker, dramatic liner that drags to the middle of the outer corner of my eye to really emphasize the thickness and lines of comic book art style. And lastly, for makeup, I have blush. I used to never ever wear blush, and it's pretty embarrassing actually, because even for my everyday makeup, I used to only use contour. And I just regret it so much, because I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? So when I say blush, I don't mean just overall usage, but I mean blush placement. I'm definitely not an expert with contouring and highlighting yet, but usually whenever I put my blush higher up on my cheeks, like over here, it usually gives me a more snatched look, I'd like to think. But whenever I put blush like over here on my actual cheekbones, I feel like it gives me a more fuller, blushy, I don't know how else to describe it, blushy look. And you can also put blush on like the tip of your nose or on your nose bridge if you're trying to go for that look. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it makes sense to me in my head, and I know there's reasoning behind it, but I just can't formulate words to explain it. There are a lot of different contouring, blush, highlighting face maps, I think they're called, that you can look up on Pinterest, that you can experiment with for different characters and see what fits your style best and your face and just whatever you feel good in.
My camera died. Random other side tip that I'm going to include in this section because I don't know where else it could go is colored contacts. Now, I used to be a really big hater of wigs and colored contacts because I was very frugal, and I'm still frugal. Specifically, I would be like, I'm only gonna cosplay characters with black hair and brown eyes because I'd be saving money that way. Girl, be so for real right now. But once I started using colored contacts, I never went back. It is life-changing. It is insane how much colored contacts can really pull together a look and really make you look like you're that character and you basically jumped off of the screen or the page or computer screen or whatever. Yeah. Look at this. And then look at this. Scary, right? And of course, this is just based off of everybody's preferences. I know not everyone is comfortable or able to wear colored contacts, so it really just is based off of your comfortability, is that a word? How comfortable you are, or if you're even able to wear them. And if not, then it's totally okay. Okay, this next subsection is going to be about wigs. Now, wigs are still sadly not my strongest suit yet. I still have a lot to learn about wigs, but hey, this is a video about things I wish I knew when I first started cosplaying, so don't judge me. Hold on, I'm gonna get a wig for an example. Okay, so you know these little straps in the back of the wig, bottom over here, they usually, whenever you first get them, they're out and dangling out. Let me see if I can grab it. These little guys. So I did not realize that they are supposed to hook onto these slots over here, and there are multiple different slots depending on how tight you want your wig to be on your head. I would either put on the wig and just let the straps fly loose, or I would tuck them in and hope that nobody saw them, or I would hook them onto one another and hope for the best. And I totally thought that that's what that was for. So don't do that. I didn't know any better at the time, and I didn't have anyone to tell me otherwise, so don't judge. Moving on, next tip I have is crimping. Now this one I'm still not 100% a professional at, or not super educated on, but it's been a life changer for me with wigs. To my understanding, crimping wigs not only adds volume, reduces the artificial shine of the wigs, and makes the wig more malleable as far as styling. It's also a lifesaver for tangling or detangling. I had the hardest time keeping my Mirko wig untangled, and I would actually procrastinate cosplaying her because I was dreading the process of raw detangling it. But after I crimped the wig, it got a lot less tangled than it did before I crimped it. Next thing I would like to introduce is the wig grip. Now this is something that I actually learned about when I started working at this princess character company. I had never known of its existence up until then. Basically, it's supposed to save you from getting a 5 head in the middle of a con and the constant need for readjusting your wig. Next thing I have for wigs is pinning your wigs. Not only did I not clasp my wigs properly, not use a wig grip, I also did not bobby pin the wigs to my head. So my wigs were just flying off of my head, and somehow, I don't know, I have no clue. But to my understanding, or this is how I do it, I'm sure a lot of other people do it differently, but I pin my wigs. Sorry for the interruption. Going back to what I was saying. So whenever I pin my wigs, I usually put one over here by my ears, another one here, and then I will focus on pinning them behind my head or the back of my neck. And then a few maybe at the top. It kind of just depends on what this style is. There are some wigs with these claspy thingies, but they are, oh here. They're like black clasps or different colored clasps, and they will go like into your wig cap, and then some of them will slide underneath this way. So basically wherever the clasps are, I won't pin in those sections. I was actually asked to make a video on wigs and wig styling and tips and tricks. So I think I'm just going to record an entirely separate video talking about wigs and stuff. But I will probably ask one of my mutuals that is more educated and experienced with wigs to make that video with me. I'll probably ask them questions, or I'd like to see if we could do like a walkthrough as far as the styling process. So yeah, hopefully I can do something like that in the future. So stay tuned. Self-promotion. This next section is just going to be a little miscellaneous random cosplay tips section, just because I don't know what I could generalize it as. So my first tip would be using a steamer. I wasn't aware of the use of a steamer in cosplay. Like, I know you could like use it to de-wrinkle your clothes, but you can also use it for your wigs as well. Overall, just using a steamer or an iron to get the wrinkles out of your cosplay makes your cosplay look a little bit more seamless and a little bit more put together and polished. And then going back to using the steamer for wigs, it not only helps detangle it, but it gets rid of the artificial shine of wigs too, I'm pretty sure. This next tip is specifically for thigh-high socks and stockings, just because I remember whenever I first started cosplaying this variant of Starfire, I would wear her at the con and my stockings would always roll down or fall down, and I would spend a lot of time just having to roll them back up. Back in the day, I did not know this existed, but they actually have double-sided fabric tape. So one side sticks to your skin, one side to the fabric. There you go, your thigh highs won't be rolling down so much. This next tip is kind of a crappy tip, but it is something that I did in the past. So I'm going to give you a solution for what I eventually learned. So for spandex suits that cover the entirety of your hand, it's hard to be able to use your phone, especially at a con. So what I learned is that you can cut a small hole here on the center of your fingertip, and then that way you could access your phone while you're wearing the suit, and it's such a small hole that you probably won't even be able to recognize that it's there. Because what I did instead is that I cut off every single fingertip on both of my hands, and then later on when the cosplay starts breaking down and tearing away, I'm like, why are the fingertips peeling like banana peels? I know that's a crappy tip, but it's something that I did, and if I can spare the tragedy of anyone else doing that, then I've done my job. And then my last tip will be talking about buying con tickets / badges for a much cheaper price. This is something that I didn't understand back in the day. Quick little backstory. Whenever I first started cosplaying, I felt very, very behind in the cosplay and con community. So I felt the need to go to every single convention that was local to me. I would just drop a bunch of money on it, and most of the time when I bought the tickets, it was either the week of or at the door. Usually the tickets are more expensive the closer you get to the con. I didn't know back in the day that some people actually planned the con months in advance, and you can buy the tickets for a lot more of a cheaper price than you would the day of. And who knows, maybe I would have been rich by now if I didn't do that, but we'll never know. So try to save money and plan your con trips ahead of time if you can. If you have the luxury to, then try to just save some money. And if for whatever reason you don't end up being able to go to the con last minute, you can always resell your ticket. If it's pretty cheap, then you didn't really waste that much money anyways. I think in the future I'm going to make a different video talking about things I wish I knew before going to my first convention, so stay tuned for that as well. Self-promotion. End up talking about a wig grip? Sure hope so. So that is all I have for you all today as far as tips that I wish I knew when I first started cosplaying. If there's anything that's inaccurate, please let me know in the comments, or if there's anybody that's able to give a more detailed and in-depth explanation for some of the things that I've explained, please do. I am not a professional cosplayer, and I am just going off of my personal experiences that I have, and am doing so in the hopes that I can be helping out any new cosplayers or just anyone in general. And if you're not here because you need some tips, then maybe you're here to be entertained by the terrible mistakes I've made in the past. If you like this video, please consider leaving me a like and a comment, maybe checking out my channel for more future videos like this. If you have any other video ideas for me, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And as per usual, here are my other social media platforms. I'm mostly active on Instagram, and that is probably where you'll see the most updates about what I'll be posting on my channel. And as usual, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you next time.